The book of Deuteronomy chapter 1, reading Tagalog. Ang buong Israel ay tinagubili ni Moises nang sila'y nasa ilang sa kabila ng Jordan sa Araba. Ito ay nasa tapat ng Sup sa pagitan ng Para na Topel, Laban, Hezarot at Disahab. Ang layo ng Horeb sa Kades Barnea ay 11 araw ng lakbayin kung sa kaburulan ng Siyardaanan. Ang unang araw ng ika-11 buwan ng ika-40 taon mula sa sila'y umalis sa Ehipto. Sinabi ni Moises sa mga Israelita ang mga utos na ibinigay sa kanya ni Yahweh. Nalupig na nila noon ang mga haring Amoreya sa sina Senon ng Hesbon at Og ng Basan. Nakatira sa Hazarot at Edrei. Nang sila'y nasa kabila ng Jordan, sa lupain ng Moab, ipinaliwanag ni Moises ang mga tuntuning ito. Ang sabi niya, nang tayo nasa Horeb, ang sabi sa akin ni Yahweh, sa ating Diyos, matagal-tagal na rin kayong nakatigil dito. Magpatuloy na rin kayo sa paglalakbay, papunta sa kaburalang tinitirhan ng Amoreya sa mga nakaratig lugar ng Araba. Sakupin ninyo ang kaburalan, ang kapatagan, ang Negeb at ang baybaying dagat. Sa makatuwid, ang buong lupain ng Kanan at Libano hanggang sa ilog ng Euphrates. Iyan ang inihanda para sa inyo. Iyan ang lupaing ipinangako sa inyo ng ninunong si Abraham, Isaac at Jacob. Patuloy pa ni Moises, sinabi sa inyo noon, hindi kayo kayang pamalang mag-isa. Sa pagkupkup ni Yahweh, ngayon ay sindami na kayo ng bituin sa langit, naway pagpalain kayo at tulad ng pangako na paramihan nawa ang mga kumpong ulit. Hindi ko kayo kayang pamahalang mag-isa dahil sa dami ninyo at sa dami ng usaping nilalapit ninyo sa akin. Kaya ipinili kayo ng mga matatalino, maunawain at may karanasan upang italaga ang pamahalain ninyo. Sumang-ayon naman kayo sa Kanya, kaya't humirang kayo ng 10 mga lalaking kilala sa inyong mga lipi, lalaking may talino at sapat na karanasan. Sila inilagay sa tagapamahala ng 1,000, 100, 50, 10, naglagay rin sila ng mga pinuno ng bawat lipi. Ito yung nagubilin ko sa inyo noon na pag-aralan ninyong mabuti ang usapang ilalapit sa inyo ng kanilang mga kapatid at igawad ang kaulok-kulang kahatol ng walang kinikilingan, maging katutubong Israelita o sa dayuhan. Huwag rin silang magtatangi ng tao, igagawad nila ang katarungan sa lahat, maging dakila o aba. Huwag silang matatakot kanino man, pagkat ihahatol ninyo mula sa Diyos, kung inaakala ninyong mabigat ang usapin, dalhin nila sa akin ang mga hahatol. Sinabi ko rin sa inyo noon, ang lahat ng dapat ninyong gawin. Ayon sa utos ni Yahweh, nagpatuloy tayo sa paglalakbay mula sa Horeb. Pinasok natin ang malawak at matatakot na kagubatan bago tayo nakarating sa kaburulan ng Amoreo at narating natin sa Kades Barnea. Sinabi ninyo noon, narito tayo sa kaburulang Amoreo sa lupaing ibinigay sa atin ni Yahweh. Ang lupaing ito ay hinihanda sa atin, huwag tayong mag-aksayang panahon. Sakupin natin at tagubilin ang Diyos na ating magulang. Huwag kayong matakot, ngunit iniling ninyo na magpadala muna tayo ng tiktik upang pag-aralan kung paano natin pasukin ang lugar na yon. Nagustuhan ninyo ang sinabi, kaya pumili kayo ng 12 tao sa bawat lipi. Pumunta sila sa kaburulan, iyon ay nakarating sa lambak ng Eskol. Nang sila'y magbalik, ay may dala silang prutas mula roon at sinabi nilang, mainam ang lupaing ibinigay sa atin ni Yahweh. Ngunit hindi kayo nagpunta. Sa halip ay nilibag ninyo ang utos ni Yahweh. Lihim kayo nag-usap-usap sa inyong mga tolda, ang sabi ninyo, marahil galit sa atin si Yahweh, kaya niya tayo inilipat sa Ehipto at dinala rin tayo sa ipapatay sa Amoreo. Paano tayo makakapunta sa lupaing iyon? Natatakot palang pumunta roon. Malalaki kaysa sa mga tao roon, malalaki ang lungsod, at ang pader ay sagad sa langit. May mga higante roon. Ang sabi naman niya sa inyo, huwag kayong matakot sa kanila, pagkat si Yahweh ang mangunguna sa inyo, ipaglalaban kayo katulad ng nakita ninyong ginawa niya sa Ehipto. Ang ilang dinala niya kayo rito. Inilagaan ni tulad ng dapat gawin ang ama ang kanyang anak. Hindi pa rin kayo lubos na magtiwala sa kanya, gayong sila ay nanguna sa inyo. Pinatnubayan kayo sa pamagitan ng haliging apoy ng kung gabi at haliging ulap kung araw, at itunuro sa inyo ang inyong daraanan sa inyong himpilan. Narinig ni Yahweh ang usaping iyon at sila'y nagalit. Dahil dito, isinumpa ninyo sa inyo ang ilang nakarating sa lupain ng aking ipinangako sa inyo at ng mga magulang. Ipinangako sa inyo ng mga anak ni Jopen, siya lamang ang makakapasok roon. Ibibigay sa atin ang kanyang magiging lahi at lupaing maaabot niya sapagkat lubusan siyang sumunod sa atin. Nagagalit din sa atin ang si Yahweh dahil sa inyo. Sinabi niya, Moises, hindi ka rin makakarating doon, pagkat ang kanang kamay mong si Josue ang papasok doon. Palakasin mo ang kanyang loob, pagkat mangunguna sa Israel. Pagsakop sa lupaing iyon. Sinabi rin niya na makakarating lamang doon ang ilang mga mahal sa buhay na sinasabi ninyong mabibilang sa labanan, at ang maliliit ninyong anak na hindi pa makakaalam ng masama at mabuti. Ibinigay ko sa kanila ang lupaing upang kanilang tirahan. Ngunit kayo ibabalik sa ilang papuntang dagat ng tambo. Sinabi naman ninyo sa akin noon, nagkasala kami ni Yahweh, papunta kami roon, at makikipaglaban tulad ng inuutos nila sa amin. At kayong lahat ay dali-daling nagsakbat ng sandata sapagkat akala ninyo madali lamang ang paglusob sa kaburulan ng Amoreo. Ipinapipigil kayo sa akin ni Yahweh sapagkat hindi ninyo papatnubayan at malulupig lamang kayo ng lakbayan. Ngunit hindi kayo nakinig. Sinuway ninyo ang utos ni Yahweh, pagpatuloy kayo upang magsuloob. Ngunit parang pukyutang dumagsa sa inyo ang Amoreya at nalupig kayo at tinugis hanggang Horma. Dumating kayo kay Yahweh, ngunit hindi kayo tuminig, kaya napilitan kayong tumigil ng matagal sa Hades.
Chapter 2. Then we turned and journeyed into the wilderness of the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord spoke to me, and we skirted Mount Seir for many days. And the Lord spoke to me, saying, you have skirted this mountain long enough, turn northward, and command the people, saying, you are about to pass through the territory of your brethren, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. Therefore, watch yourselves carefully. Do not meddle with them, for I will not give you any of their land, no, not so much as a footstep, because I've given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. You shall buy food from them with money that you may eat, and you shall also buy water from them with money that you may drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hand. He knows you're trudging through this great wilderness. These 40 years the Lord your God has been with you. You have lacked nothing. And when we passed beyond our brethren, the descendants of Esau, who dwelt in Seir, away from the road of the plain, away from Elath and Ezon-Geber, we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Then the Lord said to me, do not harass Moab, nor contend with them in battle, for I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given her to the descendants of Lot as a possession. The Amen have dwelt there in times past, people as great and numerous, as tall as the Anakim. They were also regarded as giants like the Anakim, but the Moabites called them Emim. The Horites formerly dwelt in Seir, but the descendants of Esau disposed them and destroyed them from before them, and dwelt in their place, just as Israel did to the land of their possession, which the Lord gave them. Now rise and cross over the valley of Zered. So we crossed over the valley of the Zered. At that time, we took to come from Gedberes until we crossed over the valley of Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of the men of war were consumed from the midst of the camp, just as the Lord has sworn to them. For indeed the hand of the Lord was against them to destroy them from the midst of the camp until they were consumed. So it was then, when all the war had finally perished, when all the men of war had finally perished from among the people, that the Lord spoke to me, saying, this day you are to cross over at Ar, the boundary of Moab, and when you come near the people of Ammon, do not harass them or meddle with them, for I will not give you any of the land of the people of Ammon as a possession, because I've given it to the descendants of Lot as a possession. That was already regarded as the land of giants. Giants formerly dwelt there, but the Ammonites called them Zamazumi, a people as great, as numerous, as tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they disposed them and dwelt in their place, just as he had done to the descendants of Esau who dwelt in Seir when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They disposed them and dwelt in their place even to this day. And the Avin who dwelt in the villages as far as Gaza, the Kaparim who came from Captor, did destroy them and dwelt in their place. Rise, take your journey and cross over the river Aram. Look, I've given you into your hand Shinon, the Amorite king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and engage him in battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the nations under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of you and shall tremble and be in anguish because of you. And I sent messages from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Shalom, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, let me pass through your land. I will keep strictly to the road, and I will turn neither to the right nor to the left. You shall sell me food for money that I may eat, and give me water for money that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot. Just as the descendants of Esau, who dwell in Seir, and the Moabites who dwell in Ar did for me, until I crossed your Jordan to the land which the Lord our God is giving us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass through, for the Lord your God hardened his heart and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into your hand as it is this day. And the Lord said to me, see, I've begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to possess it, that you may inherit his land. Then Sihon and all the people came out against us to fight at Jahaz, and the Lord our God delivered him over to us. So we defeated him, his sons, and all his people. We took all his cities at that time, and we utterly destroyed the men, the women, the little ones of every city. We left none remaining. We took only the livestock as plunder for ourselves, with the spoil of the cities which we took, from Harara, which is on the bank of the river Arnon, and from the city that is in the ravine, as far as Gilead. There was not one city too strong for us, for the Lord our God delivered all to us. Only you did not go near the land of the people of Ammon, anywhere along the river Jabbok, or to the cities of the mountains, or wherever the Lord our God had forbidden us.
Chapter 3. Then we turned and went to the road to Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have delivered him and all his people and all his land into your hand. You shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon. So the Lord our God also delivered into our hands Og, king of Bashan, with all his people, and we attacked him until he had no survivors remaining. And we took all the cities at the time. There was not a city which we did not take from them. 60 cities all the region of Argob and the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All these cities were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars beside the great many ritual towns. And we utterly destroyed them as we did to Sihon, king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, the women, and children of every city. But all the livestock and the spoil of the cities were took as bounty for ourselves. And at the time we took the land from the hand of the two kings of the Amorites, who were on this side of the Jordan, from the river Arnon to Mount Ebal, the Sidonians call Hammon Sirion, and the Amorites call it Siniria. All the cities of the plain, all Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Salca and Adria, cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the giants. Indeed, his bedstead was an iron bedstead. It is not in Rabash of the people of Ammon. 9 cubits is its length, and 4 cubits is its width, according to the standard cubit. And this land which we possessed at that time from Orera, which is by the river Ammon, and half the mountains of Gilead and its cities, I gave to the Reubenites and the Gadites, the rest of Gilead, and all the Bashan, the kingdom of Og. I gave to all the tribe of Manasseh and all the region of Argob, with all Bashan, was called the land of the giants. Giants, the sons of Manasseh, took all the region of Argob as far as the border of the Jeshurunites and the Merchantites, and called Bashan after his own name, Havoth Jair, to this day. Also, I gave Gilead to Mashah and to the Reubenites, and the Gadites gave from Gilead as far as the river Ammon, the middle of the river as the border, as far as the river Jabbok, the border of the people of Ammon, the plain also with the Jordan as the border, from Chinnereth as far as the east side of the sea of the Arabah, the Salt Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. Then I commanded you at that time, saying, the Lord your God has given you this land to possess. All you men of valor shall cross over, armed before your brethren, the children of Israel. But your wives, your little ones, and your livestock, I know that you have much livestock, shall stay in your cities, which I have given you, until the Lord has given rest to your brethren as to you, and they also possess the land which the Lord your God is giving them beyond the Jordan. Then each of you may return to his possession, which I have given you. And I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings. So will the Lord do to all the kingdoms through which you pass. You must not fear them, for the Lord your God himself fights for you. Then I pleaded with the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord God, you have begun to show your servants your greatness and your mighty hands. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do anything like your works and your mighty deeds? I pray, let me cross over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, those pleasant mountains and Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me on your account and will not listen to me. So the Lord said to me, enough of that. Speak no more to me of this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift your eyes towards the west, the north, the south, and the east. Behold it with your eyes, for you shall not cross over the Jordan. but command Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go over before these people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which you will see. So we stayed in the very opposite of Beth-Peor.
Moses urges Israel to obey. And now, Israel, listen carefully to these decrees and regulations that I'm about to teach you. Obey them so that you may live, so you may enter and occupy the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to or subtract from these commands I am giving you. Just obey the commands of the Lord, your God, that I'm giving you. You saw for yourself what the Lord did to you at Baal-peor. There the Lord your God destroyed everyone who had worshipped Baal, the god of Peor. But all you who were faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today, every one of you. Look, I now teach you these decrees and regulations just as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may obey them in the land you're about to enter and occupy. Obey them completely, and you will display your wisdom and intelligence among the surrounding nations. When they hear all these decrees, they will exclaim, "How wise and prudent are the people of this great nation." For what great nation has a God as near to them as the Lord our God is near to us, whenever we call on him? And what great nation has decrees and regulations as righteous and fair as this body of instructions that I'm giving you today? But watch out, be careful never to forget what you yourself have seen. Do not let these memories escape from your mind as long as you live. And be sure to pass them on to your children and grandchildren. Never forget the day when you stood before the Lord your God at Mount Sinai, where he told me, "Summon the people before me, and I will personally instruct them. Then they will learn to fear me as long as they live, and they will teach their children to fear me also." You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, while flames from the mountain shot into the sky. The mountain was shrouded in black clouds and deep darkness, and the Lord spoke to you from the heart of the fire. You heard the sound of his words, but didn't see his form. There was only a voice. He proclaimed his covenant, the 10 commandments, which he commanded you to keep, and which he wrote on 2 stone tablets. It was at that time that the Lord commanded me to teach you his decrees and regulations, so you would obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. A warning against idolatry. But be very careful. You did not see the Lord's form on the day he spoke to you from the heart of the fire at Mount Sinai. So do not corrupt yourselves by making an idol in any form, whether of a man or a woman, an animal on the ground, a bird in the sky, a small animal that scurries along the ground, or a fish to the deepest sea. And when you look up into the sky and see the sun, moon, and stars, and all the forces of heaven, don't be seduced into worshiping them. The Lord your God gave them all to you, the peoples of the earth. Remember that the Lord rescued you from the iron smelting furnace of Egypt in order to make you his very own people and his special possession, which is what you are today. But the Lord was angry with me because of you. He vowed that I would not cross the Jordan River into the good land the Lord your God is giving you as a special possession. You will cross the Jordan to occupy the land, but I will not. Instead, I will die here on the east side of the river. So be careful not to break the covenant the Lord your God has made with you. Do not make idols of any shape or form, for the Lord your God has forbidden this. The Lord your God is a devouring fire. He is a jealous God. In the future, when you have children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, do not corrupt yourselves by making idols of any kind. This is evil in the sight of the Lord your God and will arouse his anger. Today I call on heaven and earth as witnesses against you. If you break my covenant, you will quickly disappear from the land you're crossing the Jordan to occupy. You will live there only a short time, then you will be utterly destroyed. For the Lord will scatter you among the nations where only a few of you will survive. There in a foreign land you will worship idols made from wood and stone, gods that neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. But from there you will search again for the Lord your God, and if you search for him with all your heart and soul, you will find him. In the distant future, when you are suffering all these things, you will finally return to the Lord your God and listen to what he tells you. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon you or destroy you or forget the solemn covenant he made with your ancestors. There's only one God. Now search all of history, from the time God created people on the earth until now,
and search from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything as great as this ever been seen or heard before? Has any nation ever heard the voice of God speaking from fire, as you did, and survived? Has any God dared to take a nation for himself out of another nation by means of trials, miraculous signs, wonders, war, a strong hand, a powerful arm, and terrifying acts? Yet, that is what the Lord your God did for you in Egypt, right before your eyes. He showed you these things so you will know that the Lord is God and there is no other. He let you hear his voice from heaven so he could instruct you. He let you see his great fire here on earth so he could speak to you from it. Because he loved your ancestors, he chose to bless their descendants. And he personally brought you out of Egypt with a great display of power. He drove out nations far greater than you so he could bring you in and give you their land as your special possession as it is today. So remember this and keep it firmly in mind. The Lord is God, both in heaven and on earth, and there is no other. If you obey all the decrees and commands I'm giving you today, all will be well with you and your children. I am giving you these instructions so you will enjoy a long life in the land your God is giving you for all time. Eastern cities of refuge. Then Moses set apart 3 cities of refuge east of the Jordan River. Anyone who killed another person unintentionally without previous hostility could flee there to live in safety. These were the cities: Bizah on the wilderness plateau for the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead for the tribe of Gad, Golan in Bashan for the tribe of Manasseh. Introduction to Moses' second address. This is the body of instruction that Moses presented to the Israelites. These are the laws, decrees, and regulations that Moses gave to the people of Israel when they left Egypt. And as they camped in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan River, this land was formerly occupied by the Amorites under King Sihon, who ruled from Heshbon. But Moses and the Israelites destroyed him and his people when they came up from Egypt. Israel took possession of his land and that of King Og of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. So Israel conquered the entire area from Aroer at the edge of Arnon Gorge all the way to Mount Sirion, also called Mount Hermon. And they conquered the eastern bank of the Jordan River as far south as the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah.
Chapter 5. Moses summoned all of Israel and said, "Hear, Israel, the decrees and laws I declare in your hearing today. Learn them and be sure to follow them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. It was not with our ancestors that the Lord made this covenant, but with us, with all of us who are alive here today. The Lord spoke to you face to face out of the fire on the mountain. At that time, I stood between the Lord and you to declare to you the word of the Lord, because you were afraid of the fire and did not go up to the mountain." And he said, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your ox, your donkey, or any of your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns, so that your male and female servants may rest as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long and it may go well with you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not convert your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land, his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. These are the commandments that the Lord proclaimed in a loud voice to your whole assembly there on the mountain from out of the fire, the cloud, and the deep darkness. He added nothing more. Then he wrote them on stone tablets and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the darkness while the mountain was ablaze with fire, all the leaders of your tribes and elders came to me, and you said, "The Lord our God has shown us his glory and his majesty, and we have heard his voice from the fire. Today, we have seen that a person can live even if God speaks to them. But now, why should we die? This great fire will consume us, and we will die if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer. For what mortal has ever heard the voice of the living God speaking out of fire as we have and survived? Go near and listen to all that the Lord our God says. Then tell us whatever the Lord our God tells you. We will listen and obey." The Lord heard you when you spoke to me, and the Lord said to me, "I have heard what this people said to you. Everything they said was good. Oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me and keep all my commands always, so that it may go well with them and their children forever. Go tell them to return to their tents. But you stay here with me, so that I may give you all the commands, decrees, and laws you are to teach them to follow in the land I am giving them to possess. So be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in obedience to all that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land that you will possess."
Chapter 6. These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give to you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands, and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you, a land with large flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant, then, when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of peoples around you. For the Lord your God, who is among you, is a jealous God, and his anger will burn against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the land. Do not put the Lord your God to the test, as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land that the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. In the future, when your son asks you, "What is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you?" tell him, "We were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes, the Lord sent signs and wonders, great and terrible, on Egypt and Pharaoh and his whole household. But he brought us out from there to bring us in and give us the land that he promised on oath to our ancestors." The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive. as is the case today. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he commanded us, that will be our righteousness.
Chapter 7. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations more numerous and mightier than yourselves. And when the Lord your God gives them over to you, and you defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction. You shall make no covenant with them and show no mercy to them. You shall not intermarry with them, giving your daughters to their sons or taking their daughters for your sons, for they would turn away your sons from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord would be kindled against you, and he would destroy you quickly. But thus shall you deal with them. You shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and chop down their asherim and burn their carved images with fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for his treasured possession out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. It was not because you were more in number than any other people that the Lord set his love on you and chose you, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But it is because the Lord loves you and is keeping the oath that he swore to your fathers, that the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of the slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and the steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, and repays to their face those who hate him by destroying them. He will not be slack with one who hates him. He will repay him to his face. You shall therefore be careful to do the commandment and the statutes and the rules that I command you today. And because you listen to these rules and keep and do them, the Lord your God will keep with you the covenant and the steadfast love that he swore to your fathers. He will love you, bless you, and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, your grain and your wine and your oil, the increase of your herds and the young of your flock, in the land that he swore to your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all peoples. There shall not be male or female barren among you or among your livestock. And the Lord will take away from you all sickness and none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which he knew will he inflict on you. But he will lay them on all who hate you, and you shall consume all the peoples that the Lord your God will give over to you. Your eye shall not pity them, neither shall you serve their gods, for that would be a snare to you. If you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them, but you shall remember what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt, the great trials that your eyes saw, the signs, the wonders, the mighty hand, and the outstretched arm by which the Lord your God brought you out. So will the Lord your God do to all peoples of whom you are afraid. Moreover, the Lord your God will send hornets among them until those who are left and hid themselves from you are destroyed. You shall not be in dread of them, for the Lord your God is in your midst, a great and awesome God. The Lord your God will clear away these nations before you little by little. You may not make an end of them at once, lest the wild beast grow too numerous for you. But the Lord your God will give them over to you and throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed. And he will give their kings into your hand, and you shall make their name perish from under heaven. No one shall be able to stand against you until you have destroyed them. The carved images of their gods you shall burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, or take it for yourselves, lest you be ensnared by it. For it is an abomination to the Lord your God. And you shall not bring an abominable thing into your house and become devoted to destruction like it. You shall utterly detest and abhor it, for it is devoted to destruction.
Chapter 8. Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that you may live and increase, and may enter and possess the land that the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Now then, in your heart, that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in obedience to him and revering him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with brooks, streams, and deep springs gushing out into the valley and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil, honey, a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where the rocks are iron and you can dig copper out of the hills. When you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you have built fine houses and settled down, and your herds and your flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land, with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself, my power and my strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors as it is today. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God.
Chapter 9. Hear, O Israel, you are now about to cross the Jordan, to go in a dispossessed nation greater than stronger than you, with large cities that have walls up to the sky. The people are stronger and tall Anakites. You know about them and have heard it about said. Who can stand up against the Anakites? But be assured today that the Lord your God is one who goes across the head of you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them. He will subdue them before you, and you drive them out annihilate them quickly as Lord has promised you. After the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say to yourself, the Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness. No, it is on account of the wickedness of this nation that the Lord is going to drive them out before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you are going into the possession of their land, but on account of the wickedness of this nation. The Lord your God will drive them out before you to accomplish what he swore to the father, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand then that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember this and never forget how you provoked the Lord your God to anger in the desert. From the day you left Egypt until you arrived here, you have been rebellious against the Lord. At Horeb, you roused the Lord's wrath that he was angry enough to destroy you. When I went up on the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord had made with you, I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water. The Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God. On them were all the commandments the Lord proclaimed to you on the mountain out of the fire on the day of the assembly. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord gave me 2 stone tablets, the tablets of covenant. Then the Lord told me, go down from here at once, because your people whom you brought out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have turned away quickly from what I recommended them and made a cursed idol of themselves. And the Lord said to me, I have seen these people, and they are a stiff-necked people indeed. Let me alone so that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven. And I'll make you into a nation stronger and more numerous than they. So I turned and went down from the mountain while it was ablaze with fire. And the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. When I looked, I saw that you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had made for yourselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. You had turned aside quickly from the way that the Lord had commanded you. So I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of the hands, break them to pieces before your eyes. Then once again I fell prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water because of all the sin you have committed, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight, and so provoking him to anger. I fear the anger and wrath of the Lord, for he was angry enough to destroy you. But again, the Lord listened to me, and the Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him. But at that time, I prayed for Aaron too. Also, I took that sinful thing of yours, the calf you had made, and burnt it in the fire. Then I crushed it and grounded it to powder, as fine as dust, and threw the dust into the stream that flowed down the mountain. You also made the Lord angry to Taberah at the Massa and the Kibroth Hattav. And when the Lord sent you out from the Kadesh Barnea, he said, go up and take possession of the land I have given you. But you rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You did not trust him or obey him. You have been rebellious against the Lord ever since I have known you. I lay prostrate before the Lord those 40 days and 40 nights, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. I prayed to the Lord and said, O sovereign Lord, do not destroy your people, your own inheritance, and you redeemed your great power and brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Overlook the stubbornness of these people, their wickedness and their sin. Otherwise, the country from which you brought us will say, because of the Lord was not able to take them into the land he had promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to put them to death in the desert. But they are your people, your inheritance. But you brought out by your great power and your outstretched arm.
Chapter 10 in Bengali. সেই সময় সদাপ্রভু আমাকে বলেছিলেন, তুমি 2 টুকরা পাথর কেটে আগের পাথর ফলক দুটার মতো করে নাও এবং পাহাড়ের উপরে আমার কাছে উঠে এসো। সেই সঙ্গে কাঠের একটি সিন্দুকও তৈরি করে নিও। আগের যে ফলক দুটা তুমি ভেঙে ফেলেছ, তার উপর যে কথা লেখা ছিল, আমি তাই এই ফলক দুটার উপরেও লিখে দেব। তারপর তুমি সেই দুটা নিয়ে সিন্দুকটির মধ্যে রাখবে। সেই জন্য আমি বাবলা কাঠ দিয়ে একটি সিন্দুক তৈরি করলাম এবং 2 টুকরা পাথর কেটে আগের ফলক দুটার মতো করে নিলাম। তারপর সেই দুটা হাতে করে পাহাড়ের উপরে উঠে গেলাম। সদাপ্রভু প্রথম ফলক দুটার উপর যে কথা লিখেছিলেন, এই দুটার উপরেও তাই লিখে ফলক দুটা আমাকে দিলেন। সেই কথাগুলোই হলো তার সেই 10 আজ্ঞা, যা তিনি তোমাদের সকলের একসঙ্গে জড়ো হওয়ার দিনে পাহাড়ের উপর আগুনের মধ্য থেকে তোমাদের কাছে ঘোষণা করেছিলেন। তারপর সদাপ্রভু আদেশ মতো আমি পাহাড় থেকে নিচে নেমে এসে আমার তৈরি করা সেই সিন্দুকটার মধ্যে ফলক দুটা রাখলাম। সেগুলা এখনও সেখানে আছে। ইসরায়েলীয়রা পরে বেরোত বনে জাকন থেকে রওনা হয়ে মোশেরাতে পৌঁছিয়েছিল। সেখানেই হারন মারা গিয়েছিলেন এবং তাকে কবর দেওয়া হয়েছিল। তার ছেলে ইলিয়েশর তার জায়গায় মহাপুরোহিত হিসাবে হয়েছিলেন। তারপর ইসরায়েলেরা গুদগোধায় গিয়েছিল এবং সেখান থেকে গিয়েছিল জটবাথায়। জটবাথায় অনেকগুলো ছোট নদী ছিল। সেই সময় সদাপ্রভু তার ব্যবস্থা সিন্দুক বয়ে নেবার জন্য এবং সেবা কাজের উদ্দেশ্য করে তার সামনে দাঁড়াবার জন্য আর তার নামে আশীর্বাদ উচ্চারণ করবার জন্য লেবীয়দের বেছে নিয়েছিলেন। এই সব কাজ তারা আজও করছে। সেই জন্যই লেবীয়রা তাদের ইসরায়েলীয় ভাইদের মধ্যে সম্পত্তির কোনো ভাগ বা অধিকার পায়নি। তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভুর কথা অনুসারে সদাপ্রভুই তাদের সম্পত্তি। আগের বারের মতো সেইবারও আমি 40 দিন আর 40 রাত পাহাড়ের উপর ছিলাম, আর সেবারও সদাপ্রভু আমার কথা শুনেছিলেন। তোমাদের ধ্বংস করে দেবার ইচ্ছা তার ছিল না। সদাপ্রভু আমাকে বলেছিলেন, তুমি গিয়ে তাদের পরিচালনা করে নিয়ে যাও, যাতে তাদের পূর্বপুরুষদের কাছে আমি যে দেশ দেবার শপথ করেছিলাম সেখানে গিয়ে তারা তা অধিকার করে নিতে পারে। ইসরায়েলীয়রা তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভু এখন তোমাদের কাছ থেকে কি চান? তিনি কেবল চান যেন তোমরা তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভুকে ভক্তি করো, সব ব্যাপারে তার পথে চলো, তাকে ভালোবাসো, তোমাদের সমস্ত মন প্রাণ দিয়ে তার সেবা করো। আর তোমাদের মঙ্গলের জন্য আজ আমি তোমাদের কাছে সদাপ্রভুর যে সব আদেশ ও নিয়ম দিচ্ছি তা পালন করো। আকাশ ও তার উপরকার সব কিছু এবং পৃথিবী ও তার মধ্যেকার সব কিছুই তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভুর। তবুও তোমাদের পূর্বপুরুষদের প্রতি তার টান ছিল বলে তিনি তাদের ভালোবেসেছিলেন। তিনি সমস্ত জাতির মধ্য থেকে তাদের বংশধরদের অর্থাৎ তোমাদের বেছে নিয়েছেন, আর আজও তোমরা সেই বেছে নেওয়া জাতি আছো। সেই জন্য তোমরা তোমাদের অন্তরের সুন্নত করো একঘুয়ে হয়ে আর থেকো না। তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভু সব দেব দেবতার উপরে, এবং তিনি প্রভুদের প্রভু। তিনি মহান, শক্তিশালী এবং ভক্তিপূর্ণ, ভয় জাগানো ঈশ্বর। তিনি কারো পক্ষ নেন না এবং ঘুষও খান না। অনাথ ও বিধবাদের অধিকার তিনি রক্ষা করেন এবং তোমাদের মধ্যে বাস করা বিদেশীদের খেতে পড়তে দিয়ে তার ভালোবাসা দেখান। তিনি তাদের খেতে পড়তে দেন। তোমরাও বিদেশি বাসিন্দাদের ভালোবাসো, কারণ মিশরে তোমরাও বিদেশি বাসিন্দা ছিলে। তোমরা তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভুকে ভক্তি করবে এবং তার সেবা করবে, তাকেই আঁকড়ে ধরে থাকবে এবং তার নামেই শপথ করবে। তিনি তোমাদের গৌরব, তিনি তোমাদের ঈশ্বর। তোমরা নিজেদের চোখে যেসব মহৎ ও ভয় জাগানো আশ্চর্য কাজ দেখেছ, তা তিনি তোমাদের জন্যই করেছেন। তোমাদের যে পূর্বপুরুষেরা মিশরে গিয়েছিলেন, তারা সংখ্যায় ছিলেন মাত্র 70 জন। আর এখন তোমাদের ঈশ্বর সদাপ্রভু তোমাদের সংখ্যা করেছেন আকাশের তারার মতো অসংখ্য।
Chapter 11. You shall therefore love the Lord your God and always keep his charge, his statutes, his ordinances, and his commandments. Know this day that I am not speaking with your sons who have not known and who have not seen the discipline of the Lord your God, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works which he did in the midst of Egypt, to Pharaoh the king of Egypt and to all his land, and what he did to Egypt's army, its horses and its chariots, when he made the water of the Red Sea to engulf them while they were pursuing you, and the Lord completely destroyed them, and what he did to you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them, their households, their tents, and every living thing that followed them among all Israel. But your own eyes have seen all the great work of the Lord which he did. You shall therefore keep every commandment which I am commanding you today, so that you may be strong and go in and possess the land into which you are about to cross to possess it, so that you may prolong your days in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers to give them and to their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land into which you are entering to possess is not like the land of Egypt from which you came, where you used to sow your own seed and water with your foot like a vegetable garden. But the land into which you are about to cross to possess it, a land of hills and valleys, drinks water from the rain of heaven, a land for which the Lord your God cares. The eyes of the Lord your God are always on it, from the beginning even to the end of the year. It shall come about, if you listen obediently to my commandments, which I am commanding you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul, that he will give the rain for your land in its season, the early and the late rain, that you may gather in your grain and your new wine and your oil. He will give grass to your fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Beware that your hearts are not deceived, and that you do not turn away and serve other gods and worship them. Or the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its fruit, and you will perish quickly from the land which the Lord is giving you. You shall therefore impress these words of mine on your heart and on your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. You shall teach them to your sons, talking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk along the road, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your sons may be multiplied in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, as long as the heavens remain above the earth. For if you are careful to keep all the commandment which I am commanding you to do, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways and hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations from before you, and you will dispossess nations greater and mightier than you. Every place in which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. Your border will be from the wilderness to Lebanon, and from the river Euphrates, as far as the western sea. No man will be able to stand before you. The Lord your God will lay the dread of you and the fear of you on all the land which you set your foot, as he has spoken to you. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, which I am commanding you today, and the curse, if you do not listen to the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way which I am commanding you today by following other gods which you have not known. It shall come about when the Lord your God brings you into the land where you are entering to possess it, that you shall place the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not across the Jordan, west of the way toward the sunset, in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Arabah opposite Gilgal, beside the oaks of Moreh? For you are about to cross the Jordan to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and you shall possess it and live in it. And you shall be careful to do all the statutes and judgment which I am setting before you today.
Deuteronomy 12. These are the statutes and judgment which you shall be careful to observe in the land which the Lord God of your fathers is giving you to possess, all the days that you live on the earth. You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations which you shall dispossess serve their gods, on high mountains and on hills and under every green tree. And you shall destroy their altars, break their sacred pillars, and burn their wooden images with fire. You shall cut down their carved images of their gods and destroy their names from that place. You shall not worship the Lord your God with such things, but you shall seek the place where the Lord your God chooses out of your tribes to put his name for his dwelling place, and there you shall go. There you shall take your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your heaves offerings of your hand, your vows offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and flocks. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice in all to which you have put your hand, you and your household, in which the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall not at all do as we are doing here today, every man doing whatever is right in his own eyes. For as yet you have not come to the rest, and the inheritance which the Lord your God is giving you. But when you cross over the Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, and he gives you rest from all your enemies about you, so that you dwell in safety, then there will be the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. There you shall bring all I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your heave offerings of your hand, and all your choice offerings which you vow to the Lord. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, and you and your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites who within your gates since has no portion nor inheritance with you. Take heed to yourself that you do not offer your burnt offerings in every place that you see, but in the place which the Lord chooses in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and you shall do all that I command you. However, you may slaughter and eat meat within all your gates, whatever your hearts desire, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, of the gazelle and the deer alike. Only you shall not eat the blood. You shall pour it out on the earth like water. You may not eat within the gates the tithes of your grain, or your new wine, or your oil, or the firstborn of your herd, or the flocks, or any of your offerings which you vow, of your freewill offering, or the heave offering of your hand. But you must eat them before the Lord your God in the place which the Lord your God chooses. You and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all to which you put your hand. Take heed to yourself that you do not forsake the Levite as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God enlarges your borders as he has promised you, and you say, "Let me eat meat," because you long to eat meat, you may eat as much meat as your heart desires. If the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far from you, then you may slaughter your herd and your flocks which the Lord has given you, just as I have commanded you, and you may eat within your gates as much as your heart desires. Just as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so you may eat them. The unclean and the clean alike may eat them. Only be sure that you do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life. You may not eat the life with the meat. You shall not eat it, you shall pour it on the earth like water. You shall not eat it, that it may go well with you and your children after you, when you do what is right in the sight of the Lord. Only the holy things which you have and your vow offering you shall take and go to the place which the Lord chooses. And you shall offer your burnt offerings, the meat and the blood, on the altar of the Lord your God. And the blood of your sacrifices shall be poured out on the altar of the Lord your God, and you shall eat the meat. Observe and obey all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you and your children after you forever, when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God. When the Lord your God cuts off from before you the nations which go to when the Lord your God cuts off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you displace them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you are not ensnared to follow them after they are destroyed and from before you, and that you do not inquire after their gods, saying, "How did these nations serve their gods? I will also do likewise." You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abomination the Lord which he hates they have done to their gods, for they burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their gods. Whatever I command you, be careful to observe it. You shall not add to it nor take away from it.
Chapter 13. If there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, of which he spoke to you, saying, "Let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them," you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice. You shall serve him and hold fast to him. But that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken in order to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of bondage, to entice you from the way in which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. So you shall put away the evil from your midst. If your brother, the son of your mother, your son or your daughter, the wife of your bosom, or your friend, who is as your own soul, secretly entices you, saying, "Let us go and serve other gods," which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers, of the gods of the people which are all around you, near to you or far off from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. You shall not consent to him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pity him, nor shall you spare him or conceal him, but you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. And you shall stone him with stones until he dies, because he sought to entice you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. So all Israel shall hear and fear, and not again do such wickedness as this among you. If you hear someone in one of your cities, which the Lord your God gives you to dwell in, saying, "Corrupt men have gone out from among you and enticed the inhabitants of their city, saying, 'Let us go and serve other gods,' which you have not known, then you shall inquire, search out, and ask diligently. And if it is indeed true and certain that such an abomination was committed among you, you shall surely strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, utterly destroying it, all that is in it and its livestock, with the edge of the sword. And you shall gather all its plunder into the middle of the street, and completely burn with fire the city and all its plunder. For the Lord your God, it shall be a heap forever, if it shall not be built again. So none of the accursed things shall remain in your hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy, have compassion on you and multiply you, just as he swore to your fathers, because you have listened to the voice of the Lord your God, to keep all his commandments, which I command you today, to do what is right in the eyes of the Lord your God.
For you are a holy people to the Lord your God, and the Lord has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the people who are on the face of the earth. You shall not eat any detestable thing. These are the animals which you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the mountain goat, the antelope, the mountain sheep, and you may eat every animal with cloven hooves, having the hooves split into two parts, and that is the cud among the animals. Nevertheless, of those that chew the cud or have cloven hooves, you shall not eat such as these: the animal, the camel, the hare, the rock, hyrax, for they chew the cud, but do not have cloven hooves. They are unclean for you. Also, the swine is unclean for you, because it has cloven hooves, yet does not chew the cud. You shall not eat these flesh or touch their dead carcasses. These you may eat of all that are in the waters. You may eat all that have fins and scales, and whatever does not have fins and scales you shall not eat. It is unclean for you. All clean birds you may eat, but these you may not eat: the eagle, the vulture, the buzzard, the red kite, the falcon, and the kite after their kind, every raven after its kind, the ostrich, the short-eared owl, the seagull, and the hawk after their kind, the little owl, the screech owl, the white owl, the jackdaw, the carrion vulture, the fisher owl, the stork, the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe and the bat. Also, every creeping thing that flies is unclean for you. They shall not be eaten. You may eat all clean birds. You shall not eat anything that dies of itself. You may give it to the alien who is within your gate, that he may eat it. Or you may sell it to a foreigner, for you are a holy people to the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. You shall truly tithe all the increase of your grain that the field produces year by year, and you shall eat before the Lord your God in the place where he chooses to make his name abide. The tithe of your grain and your new wine and your oil, of the firstborn of your herd and your flock, that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. But if the journey is too long for you, so that you are not able to carry the tithe, or if the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far from you, when the Lord your God has blessed you, then you shall exchange it for money. Take the money in your hand and go to the place where the Lord your God chooses, and you shall spend that money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen or sheep, for wine or similar drink. For whatever your heart desires, you shall eat there before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice and your household. You shall not forsake the Levite who is within your gates, for he has no part nor inheritance with you. At the end of every third year, you shall bring out the tithe of your produce of that year and store it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widows who are within your gates may come and eat and be satisfied, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands which you do.
Chapter 15. At the end of every 7 years, you shall grant a release of debts, and this is the form of the release. Every creditor who has lent anything to his neighbour shall release it. He shall not require it of his neighbour or his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Of a foreigner you may require it, but you shall give up your claim to what is owed by your brother, except when there may be no poor among you, for the Lord will greatly bless you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance. Only if you carefully obey the voice of the Lord your God to observe with care all these commandments which I command you today. For the Lord your God will bless you just as he promised you. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. You shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. If there is among you a poor man of your brethren within any of the gates in your land which the Lord your God is giving you, You shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother. But you shall open your hand wide to him and willingly lend him sufficient for his need, whatever he needs. Beware lest there be a wicked thought in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him nothing. And he cry out to the Lord against you, and it becomes sin among you. You shall surely give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him. Because for this thing the Lord your God will bless you in all your works, in all to which you put your hand. For the poor will never cease from the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall open your hand wide to your brother, to your poor, and to your needy in your land. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you send him away free from you, you shall not let him go away empty-handed. You shall supply him liberally from your flock, from your threshing floor, and from your winepress. From what the Lord your God has blessed you with, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today. And if it happens that he says to you, I will not go away from you, because he loves you and your house, since he prospers with you, then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Also to your female servant you shall do likewise. It shall not seem hard to you when you send him away free from you, for he has been worth a double hired servant in serving you 6 years. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do. All the firstborn males that come from your herd and your flock you shall sanctify to the Lord your God. You shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You and your household shall eat it before the Lord your God year by year in the place which the Lord chooses. But if there is a defect in it, if it is lame or blind or has any serious defect, you shall not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You may eat it within your gates. The unclean and the clean person alike may eat it, as if it were a gazelle or a deer. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it on the ground like water.
Chapter 16. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover to the Lord your God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. Therefore you shall sacrifice the Passover to the Lord your God from the flock and the herd in the place where the Lord chooses to put his name. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread with it, that is, the bread of affliction. For you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day in which you came out of the land of Egypt, all the days of your life. And no leaven shall be seen among you in all your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the meat which you sacrifice the first day at twilight remain overnight until morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates which the Lord your God gives you. But at the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide, there you shall sacrifice the Passover at twilight, at the going down of the sun, at the time you came out of Egypt. And you shall roast and eat it in the place which the Lord your God chooses, and in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread. And on the 7th day, there shall be a sacred assembly to the Lord your God. You shall do no work on it. You shall count 7 weeks for yourself. Begin to count the 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the grain. Then you shall keep the Feast of Weeks to the Lord your God with the tribute of a freewill offering from your hand, which you shall give as the Lord your God blesses you. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, the Levite who is within your gates, the stranger and the fatherless, and the widow who are among you, at the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. And you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and you shall be careful to observe these statutes. You shall observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days, when you have gathered from your threshing floor and from your winepress. And you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite, the stranger and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates. 7 days you shall keep a sacred feast to the Lord your God in the place which the Lord chooses, because the Lord your God will bless you in all your produce and in all the work of your hands, so that you surely rejoice. 3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses, at the feast of unleavened bread, at the feast of weeks, and at the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. You shall appoint judges and officers in all your gates, which the Lord your God gives you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. You shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality, nor take a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. You shall follow what is altogether just, that you may live and inherit the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not plant for yourselves any tree as a wooden image near the altar which you build for yourself to the Lord your God. You shall not set up a sacred pillar which the Lord your God hates.
Chapter 17. You shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God a bull or sheep which has any blemish or defect, for that is an abomination to the Lord your God. If there is found among you within any of your gates which the Lord your God gives you, a man or a woman who has been wicked in the sight of the Lord your God in transgressing his covenant, who has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, either the sun or moon or any of the hosts of heaven, which I have not commanded, and it is told you, and you hear of it, then you shall inquire diligently. And if it is indeed true and certain that such an abomination has been committed in Israel, then you shall bring out to your gates that man or woman who has committed that wicked thing, and shall stone to death that man or woman with stones. Whoever is deserving of death shall be put to death in the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. He shall not be put to death on the testimony of 1 witness. The hands of the witnesses shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people. So you shall put away the evil from among you. If a matter arises which is too hard for you to judge between degrees of guilt for bloodshed, between one judgment or another, or between one punishment or another, matters of controversy within your gates, then you shall rise and go up to the place which the Lord your God chooses, and you shall come to the priests, the Levites, and to the judges there in those days, and inquire of them. They shall pronounce upon you the sentence of judgment. You shall do according to the sentence which they pronounce upon you in that place which the Lord chooses. And you shall be careful to do according to all that they order you, according to the sentence of the law in which they instruct you, according to the judgment which they tell you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left from the sentence which they pronounce upon you. Now, the man who acts presumptuously and will not heed the priest who stands to minister there before the Lord your God, or the judge, that man shall die. So you shall put away the evil from Israel, and all the people shall hear and fear, and no longer act presumptuously. When you come to the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and possess it, and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me. You shall surely set a king over you, whom the Lord your God chooses. One from among your brethren shall set as king over you. You may not set a foreigner over you, who is not your brother, but he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses. For the Lord has said to you, you shall not return that way again. Neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away. Nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. Also, it shall be, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write for himself a copy of this law in a book, from the one before the priests, the Levites, and it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and be careful to observe all the words of this law and the statutes, that his heart may not be lifted above his brethren, that he may not turn aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, and that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel.
The priests, the Levites, and all the tribes of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire and his portion. No, this is not right. Therefore, they shall have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he said to them. And this shall be the priest due from the people. From those who offer a sacrifice, whether it is bull or sheep, they shall give to the priest the shoulder, the cheeks, and the stomach, the first fruits of your grain, and your new wine, and your oil, and the first of the fleece of your sheep you shall give him. For the Lord your God has chosen him out of all your tribes to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. So if a Levite comes from any of your gates, from where he dwells among all Israel, and comes with all the desire of his mind to the place which the Lord chooses, then he may serve in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren, the Levites, do, who stand there before the Lord. They shall have equal portions to eat, beside what comes from the sale of his inheritance. When you come into the land which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God. For these nations which you will dispossess listen to soothsayers and diviners, but as for you, the Lord your God has not appointed such for you. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren. Him you shall hear according to all you desired of the Lord your God in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, nor let me see this great fire any more, lest I die. And the Lord said to me, What they have spoken is good. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brethren, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall be that whoever will not hear my word, which he speaks in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him. Chapter 18.
Chapter 19. When the Lord your God has cut off the nations whose land the Lord your God is giving you, and you dispossess them and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall separate 3 cities for yourself in the midst of the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess. You shall prepare roads for yourself and divide into 3 parts the territory of the land which the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, that any manslayer may flee there. And this is the case of a manslayer who flees there, that he may live. Whoever kills his neighbor unintentionally, not having hated him in the past, as when a man goes to the woods with his neighbor to cut off timber, and his hand swings a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor so that he dies. He shall flee to one of the cities and live, lest the avenger of blood, while his anger is hot, pursues the manslayer and overtakes him, because the way is long, and kills him, though he was not deserving of death, since he had not hated the victim in time past. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall separate 3 cities, 3 cities for yourself. Now, if the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he swears to your father, and gives you the land which he promised to give to your fathers, and if you keep all his commandments and do them which I've commanded you today, to love the Lord your God and to walk always in his ways, then you shall add 3 more cities for yourself beside these 3. Lest innocent blood be shed in the midst of your land, which the Lord your God is giving you as inheritance, and thus guilt of blood be upon you. But if anyone hates his neighbor, lies in wait for him, rises against him, and strikes him in mortality, so that he dies, he flees to one of the cities. Then the elders of the city shall send and bring him from there, and deliver him over to the hand of the avenger of the blood, that he may die. Your eye shall not pity him, but you shall put away the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with you. You shall not remove your neighbor's landmark, which the men of old have set, in your inheritance, which you will inherit in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. One witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. If a false witness arises against any man to testify against him of wrongdoing, then both men in the controversy shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judges who serves in those days. The judges shall make careful inquiry, and indeed, if the witness is a false witness who has testified falsely against his brother, then you shall do to him as he thought to have done to his brother. So you shall put away the evil from amongst you, and those who remain shall hear and fear, and thereafter they shall not again commit such evil amongst you. Your eyes shall not pity. Life shall be for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot.
Chapter 20. When you go out to battle against your enemies and see horses and chariots and people more numerous than you, do not be afraid of them. For the Lord your God is with you, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. So shall it be when you are on the verge of battle, that the priest shall approach and speak to the people, and he shall say to them, Hear, O Israel, today you are on the verge of battle with your enemies. Do not let your heart faint. Do not be afraid, and do not tremble or be terrified because of them. For the Lord your God is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. Then the officers shall speak to the people, saying, What man is there who has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man dedicate it. Also, what man is there who has planted a vineyard and has not eaten of it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man eat of it. And what man is there who is betrothed to a woman he has not married? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man marry her. The officers shall speak further to the people and say, What man is there who is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return to his house, lest the heart of his brethren faint like his heart. And so it shall be when the officers have finished speaking to the people, that they shall make captains of the armies to lead the people. When you go near a city to fight against it, then proclaim an offer of peace to it. And it shall be that if they accept your offer of peace and open to you, then all the people who are found in it shall be placed under tribute to you and serve you. Now, if the city will not make peace with you, but makes war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when the Lord your God delivers it into your hands, you shall strike every male in it with the edge of the sword. But the women, the little ones, the livestock, and all that is in the city, all its spoil, you shall plunder for yourself, and you shall eat the enemy's plunder which the Lord gives you. Thus you shall do to all the cities which are very far from you, which are not of the cities of these nations. But of the cities of these peoples which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance, you shall let nothing that breathes remain alive, but you shall utterly destroy them. The Hittite and the Amorite, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite, and the Hivite and the Jebusite, just as the Lord your God has commanded you, lest they teach you to do according to all their abominations which they have done for their gods, and you sin against the Lord your God. When you besiege a city for a long time, while making war against it to take it, you shall not destroy its trees by wielding an axe against them. If you can eat of them, do not cut them down to use in the siege, for the tree of the field is man's food. Only the trees which you know are not trees for food, you may destroy and cut down, to build siege works against the city that makes war with you, until it is subdued.
Chapter 21 in German. die Sühnung eines ungeklärten Mordes. Wenn ihr in dem Land, das der Herr, eure Gott, euch gibt, draußen auf dem Feld einen Toten findet und den Mörder nicht kennt, dann ist Folgendes zu tun. Zunächst sollen die führenden Männer und die Richter der umliegenden Städte kommen und feststellen, welche Stadt dem Fundort am nächsten liegt. Hat man die Stadt bestimmt, dann müssen ihre führenden Männer eine junge Kuh holen, die noch keine Arbeit verrichtet und kein Joch getragen hat. Sie bringen sie an einen Bach, der das ganze Jahr Wasser führt, an dessen Ufer aber keine Felder angelegt wurden. Dort brechen sie der Kuh das Genick. Dann kommen die Priester vom Stamm Levi dazu, die der Herr, euer Gott, erwählt hat, ihm zu dienen und in seinem Namen zu segnen. Ihr Wort entscheidet bei jedem Rechtsstreit und jedem Verbrechen. Vor ihren Augen waschen sich die führenden Männer der Stadt über der toten Kuh die Hände und erklären: Wir haben diese Menschen nicht getötet und auch nicht gesehen, wer es getan hat. Herr, vergib uns, wir sind doch dein Volk Israel, das du erlöst hast. Bitte zieh uns nicht für das vergossene Blut dieses Unschuldigen zur Rechenschaft. Wenn die Männer dies befolgen, wird den Einwohnern der Stadt dieser Mord nicht angerechnet. So sollt ihr die Schuld sühnen, wenn jemand aus eurem Volk ermordet wurde. Dann handelt ihr so, wie es in den Augen des Herrn richtig ist. Heirat mit einer kriegsgefangenen Frau. Wenn ihr Krieg führt und der Herr, euer Gott, euch siegen lässt, kann es geschehen, dass ihr Gefangene macht. Vielleicht sieht jemand von euch unter ihnen eine schöne Frau, die ihm so gut gefällt, dass er sie heiraten will. Er darf sie mit nach Hause nehmen. Dort soll sie sich den Kopf kahl scheren, die Nägel schneiden und die Kleider wechseln, die sie als Gefangene getragen hat. Einen Monat lang soll sie in seinem Haus bleiben und Zeit haben, um ihren Vater und ihre Mutter zu betrauern. Danach kann der Mann sie zur Frau nehmen und mit ihr schlafen. Gefällt sie ihm irgendwann nicht mehr, dann muss er sie gehen lassen, wohin sie will. Weil er sie zur Ehe gezwungen hatte, darf er sie auf keinen Fall als Sklaven behandeln oder verkaufen. Die Rechte des ältesten Sohnes. Wenn ein Mann 2 Frauen hat, kann es vorkommen, dass er die eine liebt und die andere nicht. Beide haben einen Sohn geboren, die Ungeliebte zuerst. Wenn der Mann später das Erbe aufteilt, darf er nicht den Sohn der geliebten Frau zum Erstgeborenen erklären und die Älteren benachteiligen. Er muss den Sohn der ungeliebten Frau als Erstgeborenen anerkennen und ihm doppelt so viel von seinem Eigentum vererben wie dem jüngeren Sohn. Sein ältester Sohn besitzt für immer alle Rechte des Erstgeborenen. Bestrafung ungehorsamer Söhne. Gesetzt den Fall, ein Sohn ist widerspenstig und stur. Er hört weder auf seinen Vater noch auf seine Mutter. So viel sie ihn auch ermahnen und bestrafen, es nützt nichts. Er macht, was er will. Dann sollen seine Eltern ihn zu den führenden Männern bringen, die am Stadttor Gericht halten. Sie sollen zu ihnen sagen: Unser Sohn hier gehorcht uns nicht. Er ist unverbesserlich und hört nicht auf, zu schlemmen und zu saufen. Darauf sollen die aller Männer der Stadt ihn steinigen. Denn ihr müsst alles Böse aus eurem Volk beseitigen. Alle Israeliten sollen von der Bestrafung hören, damit sie gewarnt sind. Hingerichtete müssen am selben Tag begraben werden. Wenn ihr jemanden für ein Verbrechen hinrichtet und seinen Leichnam an einem Pfahl oder Baum aufhängt, sollt ihr ihn nicht über Nacht dort lassen. Begrabt ihn auf jeden Fall noch am selben Tag. Denn wer so aufgehängt würde, ist von Gott verflucht. Wenn ihr seinen Leichnam nicht am selben Tag begrabt, verunreinigt ihr das Land, das der Herr, euer Gott, euch schenkt.
Deuteronomy 22. If you see your neighbor's ox or sheep or goat wandering away, don't ignore your responsibility. Take it back to its owner. If its owner does not live nearby or you don't know who the owner is, take it to your place and keep it until the owner comes looking for it. Then you must return it. Do the same if you find your neighbor's donkey, clothing, or anything else your neighbor loses. Don't ignore your responsibility. If you see that your neighbor's donkey or ox has collapsed on the road, do not look the other way. Go and help your neighbor get it back on its feet. A woman must not put on men's clothing, and a man must not wear women's clothing. Anyone who does this is detestable in the sight of the Lord your God. If you happen to find a bird's nest in a tree or on the ground, and there are young ones or eggs in it with the mother sitting in the nest, do not take the mother with the young. You may take the young, but let the mother go, so that you may prosper and enjoy a long life. When you build a new house, you must build a railing around the edge of its flat roof. That way you will not be considered guilty of murder if someone falls from the roof. You must not plant any other crop between the rows of your vineyard. If you do, you are forbidden to use either the grapes from the vineyard or the other crop. You must not plow with an ox and a donkey harnessed together. You must not wear clothing made of wool and linen woven together. You must put 4 tassels on the hem of the cloak with which you cover yourself on the front, back, and side. Suppose a man marries a woman, but after sleeping with her, he turns against her and publicly accuses her of shameful conduct, saying, "When I married this woman, I discovered she was not a virgin." Then the woman's father and mother must bring the proof of her virginity to the elders as they hold court at the town gate. Her father must say to them, "I gave my daughter to this man to be his wife, and now he has turned against her. He has accused her of shameful conduct, saying, 'I discovered that your daughter was not a virgin. But here is the proof of my daughter's virginity.' Then they must spread her bed sheet before the elders. The elders must then take the man and punish him. They must also fine him 100 pieces of silver, which he must pay to the woman's father, because he publicly accused a virgin of Israel of shameful conduct. The woman will then remain the man's wife, and he may never divorce her. But suppose the man's accusations are true, and he can show that she was not a virgin, the woman must be taken to the door of her father's home, and there the men of the town must stone her to death, for she has committed a disgraceful crime in Israel by being promiscuous while living in her parents' home. In this way, you will purge this evil from among you. If a man is discovered committing adultery, both he and the woman must die. In this way, you will purge Israel of such evil. Suppose a man meets a young woman, a virgin who is engaged to be married, and he has sexual intercourse with her. If this happens within a town, you must take both of them to the gates of that town and stone them to death. The woman is guilty because she did not scream for help. The man must die because he violated another man's wife. In this way, you will purge this evil from among you. But if the man meets the engaged woman out in the country and he rapes her, then only the man must die. Do nothing to the young woman. She has committed no crime worthy of death. She is as innocent as a murder victim. Since the man raped her out in the country, it must be assumed that she screamed, but there was no one to rescue her. Suppose a man has intercourse with a young woman who is a virgin, but is not engaged to be married. If they are discovered, he must pay her father 50 pieces of silver. Then he must marry the young woman because he violated her, and he may never divorce her as long as he lives. A man must not marry his father's former wife, for this will violate his father.
He who is by crushing or mutilation shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. One of illegitimate birth shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. even to the 10th generation, none of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord. An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation, none of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever, because they did not meet you with bread and water on the road when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam the son of Beor from Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you. Nevertheless, the Lord your God would not listen to Balaam, but the Lord your God turned the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loves you. You shall not seek their peace nor their prosperity all your days forever. You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, because you were an alien in his land. The children of the 3rd generation born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. When the army goes out against your enemies, then keep yourself from every wicked thing. If there is any man among you who becomes unclean by some occurrence in the night, then he shall go outside the camp. He shall not come inside the camp, but it shall be when evening comes that he shall wash with water, and when the sun sets, he may come into the camp. Also, you shall have a place outside the camp where you may go out, and you shall have an implement among your equipment. And when you sit down outside, you shall dig with it and turn and cover your refuse. For the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you and give your enemies over to you. Therefore, your camp shall be holy, that he may see no unclean thing among you and turn away from you. You shall not give back to his master the slave who has escaped from his master to you. He may dwell with you in your midst, in the place which he chooses within one of your gates, where it seems best to him. You shall not oppress him. There shall be no ritual harlot of the daughter of Israel's, or a perverted one of the sons of Israel. You shall not bring the wages of a harlot or a price of a dog to the house of the Lord your God for any vowed offering, for both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God. You shall not charge interest to your brother, interest on money or food or anything that is lent out at interest. To a foreigner you may charge interest, but to your brother you shall not charge interest, that the Lord your God may bless you in all which you set your hand in the land which your on your neighbour's standing grain.
Chapter 24. When a man takes a wife and marries her, it happens that she finds no favour in his eyes because he has found some uncleanness in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house. When she has departed from his house and goes and becomes another man's wife, if the latter husband detests her and writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house, or if the latter husband dies, who took her as his wife, then her former husband, who divorced her, must not take her back to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that is an abomination before the Lord, and you shall not bring sin on the land which the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. When a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war or be charged with any business. He shall be free at home 1 year and bring happiness to his wife whom he has taken. No man shall take the lower or the upper millstone in pledge, for he takes one's living in pledge. If a man is found kidnapping any of his brethren of the children of Israel and mistreats him or sells him, then that kidnapper shall die, and you shall put away the evil from among you. Take heed in any outbreak of leprosy, that you carefully observe and do according to all that the priests, the Levites, shall teach you. Just as I commanded them, so shall so you shall be careful to do. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way when you came out of Egypt. When you lend your brother anything, you shall not go into his house to get his pledge. You shall stand outside, and the man to whom you lend shall bring the pledge out to you. And if the man is poor, you shall not keep his pledge overnight. You shall in any case return the pledge to him again when the sun goes down, that he may sleep in his own garment and bless you, and it shall be righteousness to you before the Lord your God. You shall not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether one of your brethren or one of the aliens who is in your land within your gates. Each day you shall give him his wages, and not let the sun go down on it, for he is poor and has set his heart on it, lest he cry out against you to the Lord, and it be sin to you. Fathers shall not be put to death for their children, nor shall children be put to death for their fathers. A person shall be put to death for his own sin. You shall not pervert justice due the stranger or the fatherless, nor take a widow's garment as a pledge. But you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you from there. Therefore I command you to do this thing. When you reap your harvest in your field, and forget a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to get it. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat your olive trees, you shall not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, you shall not glean it afterwards. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command you to do this thing.
Chapter 25. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault, by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed, lest if he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. If a man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders and say, My husband's brother refuseth to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak unto him. And if he stands to it and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, So shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel, the house of him that has his shoe loosed. When men strive together one with another, and the wife of the one draweth near for to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand, and taketh him by the secrets, then thou shalt cut off her hand. Thy eye shall not pity her. Thou shalt not have in thy bag diverse weights, a great and a small. Thou shalt not have in thy house diverse measures, a great and a small. But thou shalt have a perfect and just weight. A perfect and just measure shalt thou have. that thy days may be lengthened in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. For all that do such things, and all that do unrighteously, are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, when you were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not God. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thy enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. Thou shalt not forget it.
Chapter 26 in Italian. Quando sarai entrata nel paese che il Signore il tuo Dio ti dà come eredità, e lo possederai e lo abiterai, prenderai dalle primizie tutti i frutti del suolo, da te raccolti nel paese che il Signore, il tuo Dio, ti dà. La metterai in un paniere e andrai al luogo che il Signore, il tuo Dio, avrà scelto come dimora del suo nome. Ti presenterai al sacerdote in carica in quei giorni e gli dirai: io dichiaro oggi al Signore, tuo Dio, che sono entrato nel paese, che il Signore giurò ai nostri padri di darci. Il sacerdote prenderà il paniere delle tue mani e lo deporrà davanti all'altare del Signore tuo Dio, e tu pronuncerai queste parole davanti al Signore, che è il tuo Dio. Mio padre era un arameo, arante, scese in Egitto, vi stette come straniero, come poca gente, e vi diventò una nazione grande, potente e numerosa. Gli egiziani ci maltrattarono, ci oppressero e ci imposero una dura schiavitù. Allora gridammo al Signore, al Dio dei nostri padri, e al Signore udì la nostra voce. Vide che la nostra oppressione, il nostro travaglio e la nostra afflizione. E il Signore ci fece uscire dall'Egitto con mano potente e con braccio steso, con grandi, tremendi miracoli prodigi. Ci ha condotti in questo luogo e ci ha dato questo paese dove scorrono il latte e il miele. E ora io porto le primizie dei frutti della terra che tu, Signore, mi hai data. La deporrai davanti al Signore tuo e adorerai il Signore il tuo Dio. Ti rallegrerai tu con le vita e con lo straniero che sarà in mezzo a te, di tutto il bene che il Signore il tuo Dio avrà dato a te e alla tua casa. Quando avrai finito di prelevare tutte le decime delle tue entrate, il terzo anno, l'anno delle decime, le avrai date al levita, allo straniero, all'orfano e alla vedova, perché ne mangino, entrano nelle tue città e siano saziati. Dirai davanti al Signore tuo Dio: io ho tolto dalla mia casa ciò che era consacrato e l'ho dato al levita, allo straniero, all'orfano e alla vedova, interamente secondo gli ordini che mi hai dati. Non ho trasgredito né dimenticato nessuno dei tuoi comandamenti. Non ho mangiato cose consacrate durante il mio lutto, non ho tolto nulla quando ero impuro e non ho dato per un morto. Ho obbedito alla voce del Signore, mio Dio. Io ho fatto interamente come tu mi hai comandato. Volgi a noi lo sguardo della tua santa dimora, dal cielo, e benedici il tuo popolo, Israele, e la terra che ci ha data, come giurassi ai nostri padri, tutta dove scorrono il latte e il miele. Oggi il Signore, il tuo Dio, ti comanda di mettere in pratica queste leggi e queste prescrizioni. Osservale dunque, mettele in pratica con tutto il tuo cuore, con tutta l'anima tua. Tu hai fatto dichiarare oggi al Signore che Egli sarà il tuo Dio, perché tu cammini nelle sue vie e osservi le sue leggi, i suoi comandamenti e le sue prescrizioni, e tu obbedisca alla sua voce. Il Signore ti ha fatto oggi dichiarare che sarai un popolo che Egli appartiene, come Egli ti ha detto, e che osserverai tutti i suoi comandamenti, affinché Egli ti ammetta al di sopra di tutte le nazioni, che ha fatto quanto a gloria, rinomanza e splendore, e tu sia un popolo consacrato al Signore tuo Dio, come Egli ti ha dato.
Chapter 27. Now Moses, with the elders of Israel, commanded the people, saying, keep all the commandments which I command you today. And it shall be on the day when you cross over the Jordan to the land which the Lord your God is giving you, that you shall set up yourselves for large stones and whitewash them with lime. You shall write on them all the words of this law. When you've crossed over, that you may enter the land which the Lord your God has given you, a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord God of your fathers promised you. Therefore, it shall be, when you have crossed over the Jordan, that on Mount Abel you shall set up these stones, which I command you today, and you shall whitewash them with lime. And there you shall build an altar to the Lord your God, an altar of stones. You shall not use an iron tool on them. You shall build them with whole stones, the altar of the Lord your God, and offer burnt offerings onto it, the Lord your God. You shall offer peace offerings, and shall eat there, and rejoice there, before the Lord your God. And you shall write very plainly on the stones all the words of this law. Then Moses and the priests, the Levites, spoke to all Israel, saying, Take heed and listen, O Israel. This day you have become the people of the Lord your God. Therefore, you shall obey the voice of the Lord your God and observe his commandments and his statutes, which I command you today. And Moses commanded the people on the same day, saying, These shall stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people. When you've crossed over the Jordan, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph, and Benjamin, and these shall stand on Mount Abel to curse Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali. And the Levites shall speak with a loud voice and say to the men of Israel, Cursed is the one who makes a carved or molded image, an abomination to the Lord, the work the hands of the craftsman, and sets it up in secret. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen. Cursed is the one who treats his father or his mother with contempt. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who moves his neighbor's landmark. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who makes the blind to wander off the road. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who prevents the justice due the stranger, the fatherless, and widow. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who lies with his father's wife, because he has uncovered his father's bed. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who lies with any animal. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who lies with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who lies with his mother-in-law. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who attacks his neighbor secretly. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who takes a bribe to slay an innocent person. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is the one who does not conform all the words of this law. And all the people shall say, Amen.
Deuteronomy chapter 28. If you obey the Lord your God and faithfully keep all his commands that I am giving you today, he will make you greater than any other nation on earth. Obey the Lord your God, and all these blessings will be yours. The Lord will bless your towns and your fields. The Lord will bless you with many children, with abundant crops, and with many cattle and sheep. The Lord will bless your corn crops and the food you prepare from them. The Lord will bless everything you do. The Lord will defeat your enemies when they attack you. They will attack from one direction, but they will run from you in all directions. The Lord your God will bless your work and fill your barns with corn. He will bless you in the land that he is giving you. If you obey the Lord your God and do everything he commands, he will make you his own people, as he has promised. Then all the peoples on earth will see that the Lord has chosen you to be his own people, and they will be afraid of you. The Lord will give you many children, many cattle, and abundant crops in the land that he promised your ancestors to give you. He will send rain in season from his rich storehouse in the sky, and bless all your work so that you will lend to many nations, but you will not have to borrow from any. The Lord your God will make you the leader among the nations and not a follower. You will always prosper and never fail if you obey faithfully all his commands that I am giving you today. But you must never disobey them in any way or worship and serve other gods. But if you disobey the Lord your God and do not faithfully keep all his commands and laws that I am giving you today, all these evil things will happen to you. The Lord will curse your towns and your fields. The Lord will curse your corn crops and the food you prepare from them. The Lord will curse you by giving you only a few children, poor crops, and few cattle and sheep. The Lord will curse everything you do. If you do evil and reject the Lord, he will bring on you disaster, confusion, and trouble in everything you do, until you are quickly and completely destroyed. He will send disease after disease on you until there is not one of you left in the land that you are about to occupy. The Lord will strike you with infectious diseases, with swelling and fever. He will send drought and scorching winds to destroy your crops. These disasters will be with you until you die. No rain will fall, and your ground will become as hard as iron. Instead of rain, the Lord will send down dust storms and sandstorms until you are destroyed. The Lord will give your enemies victory over you. You will attack them from one direction, but you will run from them in all directions. And all the people on earth will be terrified when they see what happens to you. When you die, birds and wild animals will come and eat your bodies, and there will be no one to scare them off. The Lord will send boils on you, as he did on the Egyptians. He will make your bodies break out with sores. You will be covered with scabs, and you will itch, but there will be no cure. The Lord will make you lose your mind. He will strike you with blindness and confusion. You will grope around in broad daylight like a blind person, and you will not be able to find your way. You will not prosper in anything you do. You will be constantly oppressed and robbed, and there will be no one to help you. You will be engaged to a young woman, but someone else will marry her. You will build a house and never live in it. You will plant a vineyard and never eat its grapes. Your cattle will be butchered before your very eyes, but you will not eat any of the meat. Your donkeys will be dragged away while you look on, and they will not be given back to you. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and there will be no one to help you. Your sons and daughters will be given as slaves to foreigners while you look on. Every day you will strain your eyes, looking in vain for your children to return. A foreign nation will take all the crops that you have worked so hard to grow, while you receive nothing but constant oppression and harsh treatment. Your sufferings will make you lose your mind. The Lord will cover your legs with incurable, painful sores. Boils will cover you from head to foot. The Lord will take you and your king away to a foreign land where neither you nor your ancestors ever lived before. There you will serve gods made of wood and stone. In the countries to which the Lord will scatter you, the people will be shocked at what has happened to you. They will make fun of you and ridicule you. You will sow plenty of seed, but reap only a small harvest, because the locusts will eat your crops. You will plant vineyards and take care of them, but you will not gather their grapes or drink wine from them, because worms will eat the vines. Olive trees will grow everywhere in your land, but you will not have any olive oil, because the olives will drop off. You will have sons and daughters, but you will lose them, because they will be taken away as prisoners of war. All your trees and crops will be devoured by insects. Foreigners who live in your land will gain more and more power, while you gradually lose yours. They will have money to lend you, but you will have none to lend them. In the end, they will be your rulers. All these disasters will come on you, and they will be with you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and keep all the laws that he gave you. They will be the evidence of God's judgment on you and your descendants forever. The Lord blessed you in every way, but you would not serve him with glad and joyful hearts. So then you will serve the enemies that the Lord is going to send against you. You will be hungry, thirsty, and naked, in need of everything. The Lord will oppress you harshly until you are destroyed. The Lord will bring against you a nation from the ends of the earth, a nation whose language you do not know. They will swoop down on you like an eagle. They will be ruthless and show no mercy to anyone, young or old. They will eat your livestock and your crops, and you will starve to death. They will not leave you any corn, wine, olive oil, cattle, or sheep, and you will die. They will attack every town in the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and the high fortified walls in which you trust will fall. When your enemies are besieging your towns, you will become so desperate for food that you will even eat the children that the Lord your God has given you. Even the most refined man of noble birth will become so desperate during the siege that he will eat some of his own children because he has no other food. He will not even give any to his brother or to the wife he loves or to any of the children who are left. Even the most refined woman of noble birth, so rich that she has never had to walk anywhere, will behave in the same way. When the enemy besieges her town, she will become so desperate for food that she will secretly eat her newborn child and the afterbirth as well, and she will not share them with the husband she loves or with any of her children. If you do not obey faithfully all God's teachings that are written in this book, and if you do not honor the wonderful and awesome name of the Lord your God, he will send on you and on your descendants incurable diseases and horrible epidemics that can never be stopped. He will bring on you once again all the dreadful diseases you experienced in Egypt, and you will never recover. He will also send all kinds of diseases and epidemics that are not mentioned in this book of God's laws and teachings, and you will be destroyed. Although you become as numerous as the stars in the sky, only a few of you will survive because you did not obey the Lord your God. Just as the Lord took delight in making you prosper and in making you increase in number, so he will take delight in destroying you and in bringing ruin on you. You will be uprooted from the land that you are about to occupy. The Lord will scatter you among all the nations, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you will serve gods made of wood and stone, gods that neither you nor your ancestors have ever worshipped before. You will find no peace anywhere, no place to call your own. The Lord will overwhelm you with anxiety, hopelessness, and despair. Your life will always be in danger. Day and night you will be filled with terror, and you will live in constant fear of death. Your hearts will pound with fear at everything you see. Every morning you will wish for evening. Every evening you will wish for morning. The Lord will send you back to Egypt in ships, even though he said that you would never have to go there again. There you will try to sell yourselves to your enemies as slaves, but no one will want to buy you.
Deuteronomy 29, the covenant renewed in Moab. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. Now Moses called all Israel and said to them, "You have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land, the great trials which your eyes have seen, the signs and those great wonders. Yet the Lord has not given you a heart to perceive and eyes to see and ears to hear to this very day. And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out on you, and your sandals have not worn out on your feet. You have not eaten bread, nor have you drunk wine or similar drink, that you may know I am the Lord your God. And when you came to this place, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us to battle, and we conquered them. We took their land and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites, to the Gadites, and to half the tribe of Manasseh. Therefore keep the words of this covenant, and do them, so you will prosper in all that you do. All of you stand today before the Lord your God, your leaders and your tribes and your elders and your officers, all the men of Israel, you little ones and your wives, also the stranger who is in your camp, from the one who cuts your wood to the one who draws your water, that you may enter into covenant with the Lord your God, and into his oaths, which the Lord your God makes with you today, that he may establish you as a people for himself, and that he may be God to you, just as he has spoken to you, and just as he has sworn to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. I make this covenant and this oath, not with you alone, but with him who stands here with us today before the Lord our God, as well as with him who is not here with us today. For you know that we came through the nations which you passed by, and you saw the abominations and their idols which were among them, wood and stone and silver and gold, so that there may not be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away today from the Lord our God to go and serve the gods of these nations, and that there may not be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood, so that it may not happen when he hears the words of this curse, that he blesses himself in the heart, saying, I shall have peace, even though I follow the dictates of my heart. as though the drunkard could be included with the sober. The Lord would not spare him, for then the anger of the Lord and his jealousy would burn against that man, and every curse that is written in this book would settle on him. And the Lord would blot his name out from under heaven, and the Lord would separate him from all the other tribes of Israel for adversity, according to the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of law, so that the coming generation of your children who rise up after you, and the foreigner who comes from a far land, would say, when they see the plagues of that land and the sicknesses which the Lord has laid on it, the whole land is brimstone, salt, and burning. It is not sown, nor does it bear, nor does any grass grow there, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and his wrath. All nations would say, why has the Lord done this to this land? What does the heat of this great anger mean? Then people would say, because they have forsaken the covenant of their Lord God, their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods they did not know and that he had not given to them. Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against this land, to bring on it every curse that is written in this book. And the Lord uprooted them from their land in anger, in wrath, and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law.
All these blessings and curses I have said will happen to you. The Lord your God will send you away to the other nations. There you will think about these things. Then you and your children will return to the Lord your God, and you will obey him with your holy being. You will obey everything I command you today. Then the Lord your God will give you lack and riches. He will feel sorry for you, and he will bring you back again from the nations where he sent you. He may send you to the ends of the earth, but he will gather you. He will bring you back from there. He will bring you back to the land that belonged to your ancestors. It will be yours. He will give you success, and there will be more of you than there. Where of your ancestors the Lord your God will prepare you and your descendants to serve him. You will love him with your whole being. Then you will live. The Lord your God will put all these curses on your enemies, and they hate you and are cruel to you. You will keep all these commands that I give you today. The Lord your God will make you successful in everything you do. You will have many children. Your cattle will have many calves. Your fields will produce more crops. He will again be happy with you, just as he was with your ancestors. But you must obey the Lord your God. You must obey his commands and the rules that are written in this book of the teachings. You must follow the Lord your God with your holy being, life or death. This command I give you today is not too hard for you. It is not beyond what you can do. It is not up in heaven. You do not have to ask who will go up to the heaven and get it for us. Then we can obey it and keep it. Is not on the other side of the sea. You do not have to ask who will go across the sea and get it. Who will tell it to us? Then we can keep it. No, the Lord is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart, so you may obey it. Look, today I offer you life and success, death and decision. I command you today to love the Lord your God. Do what he wants you to, keep his command, his rules, and his law. Then you will live and grow in number, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are going to take as your own. But you might turn away from the Lord. You might not obey him. You might be led to bowing down and serving other gods. I will tell you today that you will destroy and you will not live long in the land. You are crossing the Jordan River to enter and own today. I ask heaven and earth to be witnesses. I am offering you life or death, blessings or curse. Now choose life, then you and your children may live. Love the Lord your God, obey him, stay close to him. He is your life and he will let you live many years in the land. This is the land he promised to give your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Deuteronomy chapter 31. Joshua to succeed Moses. Then Moses went out and spoke these words to all Israel. I am now 120 years old, and I am no longer able to lead you. The Lord has said to me, you shall not cross the Jordan. The Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you will take possession of their land. Joshua also will cross over ahead of you, as the Lord said. And the Lord will do to them what he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, whom he destroyed along with their land. The Lord will deliver them to you, and you must do to them all that I have commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you must go with these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you, and he will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. So Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the Levitical priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. Then Moses commanded them, at the end of every 7 years, in the year for canceling debts, during the festival of tabernacles, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God, at the place he will choose, you shall read this law before them in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the foreigners residing in your towns, so that they can listen and learn to fear the Lord your God and follow carefully all the words of this law. Their children who do not know this law must hear it and fear to fear the Lord your God as long as you live in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. The Lord said to Moses, now the day of your death is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of the meeting where I will commission him. So Moses and Joshua came and presented themselves at the tent of the meeting. Then the Lord appeared at the tent in the pillar of cloud, and the cloud stood over the entrance to the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, you are going to rest with your ancestors, and these people will soon prostitute themselves to the foreign gods of the land they are entering. They will forsake me and break the covenant I made with them.
And in that day I will become angry with them and forsake them. I will hide my face from them, and they will be destroyed. Many disasters and calamities will come on them, and in that day they will ask, have not these disasters come on us because our God is not with us? And I will certainly hide my face in that day because all their wickedness in turning to other gods. Now write down this song and teach it to the Israelites and make them sing it so that it might be a witness for me against them. When I have brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, the land I promised on oath to their ancestors, and when they eat their fill and thrive, they will turn to other gods and worship them, rejecting me and breaking my covenant. And when many disasters and calamities come on them, this song will testify against them, because I will not be forgotten by their descendants. I know what they are disposed to do, even before I bring them into the land I promised them on oath. So Moses wrote down this song that day and taught it to the Israelites. The Lord gave this command to Joshua, son of Nun. Be strong and courageous, for you will bring the Israelites into the land I promised them on oath, and I promise will be with you. After Moses finished writing in a book of words of this law from beginning till end, he gave this command to the Levites who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord. Take this book of the law and place it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God. There it will remain as a witness against you. For I know how rebellious and stiff-necked you are. If you have been rebellious against the Lord while I am still alive and with you, how much more would you rebel after I die? Assemble before me all the elders of your tribes and all your officials, so that I can speak these words in their hearing and call the heavens and earth to testify against them. For I know that after my death, you are sure to become utterly corrupt and to turn from the way I have commanded you. In days to come, disaster will fall on you, because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord and arouse his anger by what your hands have made. The Song of Moses. And Moses recited the words of this song from beginning to end in the hearing of the whole assembly of Israel.
32. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear. O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment. O a God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves, their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people, and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath bought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock. butter of kine, and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs, and rams of the bread of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat. And thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. But Jeshurun waxed fat, and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook gods which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them, because of the provoking of his sons, and of his son and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them, I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap mischiefs upon them, I will spend mine arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger, and devoured with burning heat, and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword without, and terror within, shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of grey hairs. I said I would scatter them into corners, I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among them. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, Our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000, and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and the Lord had shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom, and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asps. Is not this laid up in store with me, and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. For the Lord shall judge his people, and repent himself for his servants. When he seeth that their power is gone, and there is none shut up or left. And he shall say, Where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices, and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you, and be your protection. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven, and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering swords, and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and will reward them that hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. And Moses came and spake all these words of this song in the ears of the people, he and Hoshea the son of Nun. And Moses made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. And he said unto them, Set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which ye shall command your children to observe to do, all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. And through this thing ye shall prolong your days in the land, whither ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Lord spake unto Moses that selfsame day, saying, Get thee up unto this mountain, Abarim, unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession, and die in the mount whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered unto his people. Because he trespassed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because he sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Yet thou shalt see the land before thee, but thou shalt not go thither unto the land which I give the children of Israel.
This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, gave to the people of Israel before his death. The Lord came from Mount Sinai and dawned upon us from Mount Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran and came from Marikadesh, with flaming fire in his right hand. Indeed, you love the people. All your holy ones are in your hands. They follow in your steps and accept your instructions. Moses charged us with the law, this special possession of the assembly of Israel. The Lord became king in Israel. When the leaders of the people assembled, when the tribes of Israel gathered, Moses said this about the tribe of Reuben: Let the tribe of Reuben live and not die out, even though their tribe is small. Moses said this about the tribe of Judah: O Lord, hear the cry of Judah and bring them again to their people. Give them strength to defend their cause. Help them against their enemies. Moses said this about the tribe of Levi: O Lord, you have given them sacred lots to your faithful servants, the Levites. You put them to the test at Manasseh and commanded them at the waters of Meribah. The Levites obeyed your word and guarded your covenant. They were more loyal to you than to their parents, relatives, and children. Now let them teach your regulations to Jacob. Let them give your instructions to Israel. They will present incense before you and offer whole burnt offerings on the altar. Bless the Levites, O Lord, and accept all their work. Crush the loins of their enemies. Strike down their foes so they never rise again. Moses said this about the tribe of Benjamin: The people of Benjamin are loved by the Lord and live in safety beside him. He surrounds them continuously and preserves them from every harm. Moses said this about the tribe of Joseph: May their lands be blessed by the Lord, with the choice gift of rain from the heavens and water from beneath the earth, with the riches that grow in the sun and the bounty products each month, with the finest crops of the ancient mountains and the abundance from the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of the one who appeared in the burning bush. May these blessings rest on Joseph's head, crowning the brow of the prince amongst his brothers. Joseph has the strength and majesty of a young bull. His power is like the loins of a wild ox. He will guard distant nations, driving them to the ends of the earth. This is my blessing for the multitude of Ephraim.
and the thousands of Manasseh. Moses said this about the tribes of Zebulun and Issachar. May the people of Zebulun prosper in their expeditions abroad. May the people of Issachar prosper at home in their tents. They summoned the people to the mountain to offer proper sacrifices there. They benefit from the riches of the sea and the hidden treasures of the sand. Moses said this about the tribe of Gad. Blessed is the one who enlarges God's territory. God is poised like a lion to tear off an arm or a head. The people of God took the best land for themselves. A leader's share was assigned to them. When the leader of the people were assembled, they carried out the Lord's justice and obeyed his regulations for Israel. Moses said this about the tribe of Dan. Dan is a lion's cub leaping out of Bashan. Moses said this about the tribe of Naphtali. O Naphtali, you are rich in favor and full of the Lord's blessing. May you prosper the west and the south. Moses said this about the tribe of Asher. May Asher be blessed among other sons. May he be esteemed by his brothers. May he bathe his feet in olive oil. May the bolts of your gates be of iron and bronze. May your strength match the length of your days. There is no one like the God of Israel. He rides across the heavens to help you, across the skies in majestic splendor. The eternal God is our refuge. Is your refuge, and his everlasting arms are under you. He thrusts out the enemy before you. It is he who cries, destroy them. So Israel will live in safety, prosperous Jacob in security, in a land of grain and wine, while the heavens drop down dew. How blessed are you, O Israel? Who else is like you? A people saved by the Lord, served by the Lord. He is your protecting shield and your triumphant sword. Your enemies will bow low before you, and you will trample on their backs.
Chapter 34. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees as far as Zor. Then the Lord said to him, this is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no one knows his grave to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses ended. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. But since then, there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, in all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, before all his servants, and in all his land, and by all that mighty power and all the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of all Israel.